Today I'm in the studio with a pastor friend of mine, Pastor Ray, started and leads a multi-ethnic church community. And so we want to talk together a little bit about what that's all about. What is the point and what's the purpose of multi-ethnic church? How do we get there? And so tell us a little bit about what this means to you.
Well, you know, one of the challenges that we live in, especially in this culture, is there's so much diversity and yet there's so much division. And I see this happening all over the United States. And one of the things that I believe that the church has a responsibility for is that we are to be a reconciling agent to bring people together. And one of the best places to start is the local church. If the local church can't be a reflection of heaven, then where can people see what heaven's going to look like? And so one of the things that I did many years ago was I left an ethnic church to plant a multi-ethnic church in Washington, D.C. And I remember being in D.C., driving around, seeing all the different embassies, and I said to myself, we need an embassy for the kingdom of God. And so 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 20 says, we are to be Christ's ambassadors, to be a reconciling agent. And I said, we need a church that can reconcile people to God, but to one another as well.
So if I'm interested in this ministry leader and I'm interested in how do I go about trying to pursue a multi-ethnic identity in my church, we talked about some of the steps that a person needs to do. First of all, you have to state that vision clearly.
Absolutely. I think to be a multi-ethnic church, you have to have the end in mind.
Okay.
And what is the end? Well, I think the end, we see that in Revelation chapter 7, verse 9.
Yeah, let me read that just right here. He says, after this I saw a vast crowd, too great to count, from every nation and tribe and people and language, standing in front of the throne and before the Lamb. So he says every nation, every tribe, every people, every language before Christ.
You know, the ultimate vision of what the kingdom, what heaven's going to look like, is all different people gathering together.
Right.
And somebody once said to me, if you want to show people what heaven's going to look like, you should show them in the local church.
Right. And yet that isn't the reality, right?
It isn't.
In most of our churches, we're pretty homogenous.
Exactly. I think that's human nature. I think we tend to cling to people who are similar to us or like us. But I think the gospel calls us to break these barriers that separate people.
So you have to put that out in front of people. You have to state that over and over and over again, probably, right?
Part of our mission statement is to make and equip disciples of all nationalities. We make the Great Commission our mission.
Okay. Now, it's one thing to talk about that, but as that plays into practical reality, you have to stage that vision as well. What do you mean by that?
So the first thing we say is we have to state the vision. Secondly, you have to stage it, meaning you have to demonstrate visibly of what heaven's going to look like. So people on the platform, or people that are handing out bulletins, or greeters, or ushers. I think having diversity on all different levels is going to give a better demonstration of what ultimately the church should look like.
Right, it's visible, so it's modeling something, and people start to go, oh, this is kind of the way it is. It's become sort of normalized that way, right?
It becomes part of the culture,
right.
Absolutely.
That's a great way to put it. But then you have to go a step further than that, right? So showing it has to be reflected in your staffing decisions as a church.
Absolutely. And this is where I think a lot of churches that desire to be multi-ethnic sort of stumble. Because even though they, as a staff or as an elder group, say we want to move in this direction, there's nobody that represents that. And so oftentimes the staffing tends to be very homogeneous. And so one of the challenges that I always give is your leadership will reflect what your church becomes. And if your leadership is not diverse, then your church is going to not be diverse, even though you have diversity in the congregation. And so one of the things that we tried to do in our church was intentionally staff people that would be representative of the people that we want to reach.
Okay, so what does that look like? How have you done that?
Well, we have interns that we hire. And we try to have diversity. We try to look at our community as well, because there are places that in the Midwest that may not be as diverse.
Right.
And so we try to see who are the people that we need to reach in this community that would better reflect what heaven's going to look like for them.